Hey, what's up, Kinder and First Leaders? Welcome this week. In week number 3, we are continuing our conversation on friendship. And so today we are seeing how what happened when Saul was converted, and some people were kind of like really worried if he was truly a new Jesus follower now, and now he was like a good guy, or if he was still kind of a bad guy, right? And so there was a friend named Barnabas who stood up for him, who knew kind of what happened, who had befriended Saul, and he was the one that stood up for Saul explained all of what happened to the early church and everything. And then that enabled Saul to become more like Paul and change his name and all of that and become a totally new, different person, right? And so he is the one that wrote a lot of our New Testament books and things like that. So anyway, that is kind of like the conversion, but it was all because, a lot of it was because of Barnabas stood up for him and was a good friend to him. And so our bottom line for today is friends stand up for each other, and that's how simple it is. So this first one, we have a sorry game or a trouble game, not the sorry game, the trouble game that you can all play together. And so work on that together, and I'll link the rules to that game at the bottom of this video as well, so feel free to watch those if you're a little rusty on that game. This next one, have everyone go ahead and sit in a circle, and what you're going to do is do a name game with this one, and what you're doing is they're all going to create a dance that goes along with their name, okay? And so whatever name that they have or you have or whatever, they're going to come up with some sort of like dance where they take the syllables of that name and then make a dance out of it, basically. And so go through that, and then they can all learn their own names and learn their own dances and stuff like that to kind of become more like friendships and knowing each other's names. Then you'll go through the Bible story. So go ahead and go through the Bible story, listen to the Bible story, and do the worship and all of that. Then when you come back to prayer time, go ahead and go through some prayers together, right? And there are some good lines at the bottom of that as well that it will help you during your prayer time for just unified things that they can all be praying for together. Now you have the Help When Trouble Comes activity page, which is your memory verse activity. And basically, you're going through the memory verse with them together. And with this memory verse, you also have some pieces of paper in there that teach you how to do the motions to the memory verse, if you guys don't remember that from the other week. And so go through those motions and work together on doing that. Then there's this fun game for playing Sharks and Minnows, but like a friendship version of it. And so what you're going to do is Sharks and Minnows, basically like you have some sharks in the middle, and then the minnows are trying to get from one side of the room to the other without being tagged by the sharks, right? And so with this variation of it, you're going to play Sharks and Minnows kind of like normal, but when they get tagged, they can become untagged if the friend stands up for one another. So if tagged, the minnow must freeze until another minnow tags them and says the bottom line, which is friends stand up for one another. And then if that happens, then they can continue on the game and act like they are all minnows again. So they don't automatically become sharks like you do in some versions of this game, but instead they're just going to be tagged minnows and wait for someone to untag them from that. Okay, next you have a Bible story review. What you do with this is you have music on your screens, and so what you can do is play some music on the screens while this is all happening, right? And you are having them kind of mingle around while this music is playing, but there's a Barnabas, and this Barnabas needs to match sticky notes to different, like the groups of sticky notes together for people. And so what happens is basically you have different colored sticky notes. So have like 3 or 4 different colored sticky notes that are placed on the backs of the children, and all of these different colors are going to be mixed around and everything. No one will be in the same hunched together figuring that out yet, but the Barnabas is supposed to link them all together and put the right people together because he's supposed to be creating those friendships together. Okay, and so if you need a little variation to this game, especially with the first graders, if they're getting bored with that, then what you can do is go ahead and make it more of a challenge to where they have to, that first grader, the Barnabas, has to figure out like how to put one person of each color into each group, okay? And so then you'll have like one orange, one red, one green or something sticky note. And so he has to walk around and make sure that everyone is in their right categories, if you will. And all of that is still going back to just the friends standing up for one another, friends connecting each other, friends loving each other. Then you have a a tissue activity page. And what you're doing with this is you have like one tissue on the top of the children's heads. And as they are walking from one place to another, if their tissue falls off of their head, then a friend has to come and pick up that tissue and put it back on their head. And when they do that, they say the bottom line again: friends stand up for one another. And so they're doing that to walk from one side of the room to the other. But the goal is to have the friendships that enable them to help each other when that trouble comes, right? And so friends stand up to one another, and it kind of goes along with the Bible verse as well. A friend loves at all times. They are there to help when trouble comes. And that's your Proverbs 17:17 verse. And that's it for this week. Thank you guys. See you guys in a little bit.